So, just starting out here, I wanted to ask you, ultimately, why did you decide to retire?
Well, I felt it was time. I've been a police commissioner now here in Philadelphia for 8 years. I was police chief in D.C. for 9 years. It's been 30 years as a member of the Chicago Police Department. So I've been in policing a long time. I'm not tired of it. I'm not burnt out. But I think I can do more for the profession of policing on a national level if I move on at this point in time. It just felt to me like it is the right time. Mayor Nutter's term coming to an end. A new mayor ought to be able to pick their own cabinet and hit the ground running. And so I just felt that all things considered, it was time.
And so do you plan to stay in policing going forward, or is this kind of like the end of everything for you?
No, it's not the end of everything. I do plan to stay involved. Again, dealing with the President's Task Force report, for an example, helping departments implement the various recommendations that are contained in that report. And there's also some opportunity for teaching. Drexel certainly has shown an interest. Newman University has shown an interest. Temple has actually had a conversation with Jerry Radcliffe. So there may be some possibility of some either guest lecturing or what have you at some of our universities here.
Very cool. So talk a little bit about what it's been like here, your time in Philadelphia as police commissioner.
Well, I've enjoyed it. I mean, 8 years went by quickly. We had our share of tragedies, unfortunately. I've had 8 officers killed in the line of duty in just under 8 years. But we've also been able to make a lot of progress and get a lot of things accomplished over the past 8 years. I'm very proud of the men and women of the department and what they've done to reduce crime in our city. We've still got a lot of work to do, but we have made some progress.
And so you talked about some of the accomplishments. What do you think is your proudest accomplishment that you've achieved here?
Well, I think the crime reduction it ranks right up there, but also the focus we've placed on education and training within the department to develop the workforce. I think that's incredibly important now and into the future. And I hope the department continues to move in that direction. Personally, one of the highlights for me was serving as president of the Major City Chiefs Association, the Police Executive Research Forum, and then having the honor of co-chairing the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing.
And what was it like to be on that task force, to be coming up with solutions that are going to be implemented across the country?
Well, it was exciting, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I was in the right place at the right time, I guess, and so I was just honored to have the opportunity to co-chair that particular task force. And I think we have a very good report, a solid report, that is going to lead to significant change in policing, and I'm proud to have been a part of it.
So talk a little bit about what makes Philadelphia unique from a policing aspect as opposed to other major cities.
I don't know if Philly's all that unique. I mean, I served in Chicago, for an example. Philadelphia reminds me of Chicago a bit, smaller scale, but it reminds me of it. D.C., parts of D.C. When you get into some of the neighborhoods in D.C., particularly in my early days there back in the 90s, similar problems, concentrated tracts of property, disproportionate amount of violent crime taking place, and so forth. So there are a lot of similarities. But Philly reminds me more of Chicago than it does D.C. It's a real city with real neighborhoods, blue collar, and so I don't know if it's unique, but it certainly is a city that I think represents what America's all about.
And now you mentioned all those different neighborhoods. What were some of the challenges in policing all of the different neighborhoods in Philadelphia with very different demographics in each one?
Well, I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's where collaboration and partnership with community means so much, to really understand their needs, their concerns, their issues, and then work together to develop strategies that can address those concerns. And it's not the same in every neighborhood, and so we have to take all those things into consideration.
And how, if at all, did the attitudes that have developed recently towards police affect how you directed your force?
Well, there is a number of people who, right now, there's a great deal of tension and so forth, but the majority of people, I still believe, have a positive attitude toward police. Now, that's not to discount those that don't. I think what it's taught us is that we have to work very hard to establish relationships with everyone, including those that we may be not quite on the same page with right now, and there's tension. We have to find ways to build bridges and to be able to get the kind of collaboration and partnerships that we need to make those communities safe as well. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us, but I do think that it's really caused us to be a lot more sensitive about the needs and the concerns of individual communities, not just the city as a whole, but individual communities, neighborhoods.
So looking back on your whole time in Philadelphia, what do you think? Was there something that stood out as kind of the toughest part of your job?
Yeah, the toughest part of my job was losing 8 officers in the line of duty. In just under 8 years, 5 of them were shot to death. Dealing with those tragedies has been the most difficult thing that I've had to deal with.
And now, I guess flipping the other side of the coin, what was the most rewarding part of being police commissioner in Philadelphia?
Seeing the department really develop and mature and become more professional, and also seeing the crime rate drop. I mean, I think that's important because that's how we move towards safer neighborhoods.
And so what do you hope now as you kind of prepare to head out, what do you hope that your legacy is here?
Well, that'll be determined by others, but I would like to think that over time people look back and recognize this as a period of time when we really did invest heavily in the education and training of our officers, in raising the standards for people coming into the profession, and really being able to come up with effective strategies to impact the crime rate in some of our most challenged areas of the city.
And then just 2 final questions here. One, kind of a little bit of a random one, but what was it like to meet Pope Francis when he visited here?
Well, it was quite an honor. I am a Catholic, so it had special meaning to me, and something that I never thought would happen to me personally. So it was quite an honor. It was quite an honor.
And then lastly, do you think it's fair to say that Philadelphia is safer now than when you first became commissioner?
I think it is, but it's not as safe as it needs to be and as it can be. And obviously there are some neighborhoods that are safer than others. But overall, I think it is.
And then going forward, do you guys have a plan to keep that reduction in crime? Because overall we have seen a downward trend in crime, which is ultimately the direction that we want to go.
Well, every strategy has to build on the one before it, and hopefully whoever is fortunate enough to take the reins of this department continues to move in that direction. We've got strong partnerships with many of the community organizations that are out there. They're going to continue to work. The job is never done. There is no finish line. You work as hard as you can for as long as you can, and you hand it off to someone else, and hopefully they do the same. And that's really what it's all about until we look up one day and Philadelphia is considered one of the safest cities in America, and that's what everybody would like to see.
Well, that's just great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me and do this interview.